Fire captain confronts death and near-death experience, exploring the illusions of life and death. Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning into this video. Today, we will explore a mysterious and emotional story about a fire captain who faced near-death moments in his life. On this journey, he not only overcame life and death challenges but also stepped into a mystical world where life and transition merge. Together, we will uncover the strange illusions he experienced, the connection between humans and souls, and deep insights into life, the afterlife, and the things beyond our understanding. Get ready for an emotional story filled with valuable lessons to reflect on. Let's begin. John Jack McAllister is the fire captain in a major city where towering skyscrapers are always lit and the noise never stops. As the leader of a courageous fire crew, Jack is the epitome of resilience and decisiveness. With his suit-covered protective gear and the helmet that's always a bit tight on his head, he is a tough man, never backing down from any challenge, whether it's a blazing fire or a torrential downpour. Jack has faced countless battles with flames, with life hanging by a thread. But deep down, he firmly believes that life is the only thing that can be felt. Everything else, including the transition, is something beyond reach. He doesn't believe in anything supernatural or mystical. To Jack, everything is science, what can be seen, touched, and reasoned. Every day, he and his team dive into ferocious fires with one goal in mind: to save lives, no matter the imminent danger. Only perseverance and the skills developed over the years keep him standing strong against the fiery storm. But one night, as Jack and his team were saving a family trapped in a blazing high-rise, an unexpected event occurred that would change his life forever. It was a night like any other. His fire team was in full action, charging into the thick smoke and towering flames to rescue the trapped victims. The high-rise, an old building with weak structures and flammable materials, had erupted into flames. Jack and his team managed to get a family out safely, leading them away from the raging fire. The cries and screams of the victims echoed through the suffocating air, mixed with the sound of crackling flames. However, just when they thought they had made it, the unexpected happened. The fire intensified, spreading rapidly and engulfing every corner of the building in a wave of heat. Jack's team was still on the upper floors when a deafening crash shook the entire structure. A massive block of concrete from the top floor came crashing down, breaking apart and falling directly onto Jack as he was trying to pull a man from the flames. It felt as though the world collapsed around him in an instant, and a sharp, excruciating pain shot through his body. Piece by piece, Jack's body was pinned under the weight of the concrete. He tried to move, but his body seemed to no longer respond. The sounds around him became distant, the light blurred, and it felt as though he was falling into an entirely different realm, where everything began to feel intangible. When Jack slowly opened his eyes, a strange sensation overwhelmed him. He was no longer in the burning building. The pain and panic he had felt earlier seemed to have faded away, replaced by a vast, mysterious space that stretched infinitely. The ground beneath his feet seemed to disappear, and there was no sky, only a dim, pale light that seemed to cover everything in sight. The air was still, silent, like stepping into another world where time held no meaning. Everything around him seemed faded and flat, but there was an undeniable beauty, an enigmatic allure that Jack couldn't quite explain. In that moment, Jack sensed a presence, a feeling of something vast and powerful waiting for him. Then, from the shadows of that strange, endless space, a figure emerged. A woman, unlike anyone Jack had ever met. She wore a flowing white robe, soft and long, almost as if it was made from light itself. Her hair cascaded down her back, shimmering like silver, glowing with faint ethereal rays, like stars in the night sky. Her eyes were unlike those of any mortal, shining brilliantly, like two stars burning brightly against the backdrop of the universe, filled with mystery and power. She didn't move, yet there was a strange sense that she was standing right beside Jack, and the uncanny feeling that she could see into his very soul. "I am Seraphine," her voice echoed, soft yet powerful, like the sound of a bell reverberating through the vast emptiness. Her words were not just sounds, they seeped into Jack's mind, stirring a deep, inexplicable connection, as if he had known her for eons. "I am the guide between life and the departure," she continued, her voice gentle but filled with an overwhelming strength, as if she had borne this great responsibility for countless ages. Seraphine looked at Jack with a gentle yet deeply understanding gaze. She slowly approached, and in that moment, Jack felt as if he were being pulled into a vortex of time and space. "Jack," she said, her voice soft but filled with seriousness, "in the moment you faced danger, when the concrete trapped you, you crossed a threshold but you haven't truly crossed it. You found yourself in a realm between life and passing, a mystical space that few people ever have the chance to enter." She paused for a moment, her eyes seeming to search something deep within Jack. "This is the waiting zone. A place that lies between two worlds, where souls linger, unable to find peace. They come here when they are on the brink of departure but are not yet ready to leave life behind. This is where lost souls, souls that have not found solace, exist. You are not a soul seeking to reincarnate, but you are no longer truly alive either. You are in between, in a state that we call waiting." Jack heard Seraphine's words but couldn't fully grasp their meaning. He felt as though part of him was still anchored in the real world, in his body, yet another part of him seemed lost in this mystical space, where there was no clear definition of life or passing. He couldn't feel his breath, couldn't hear the beat of his heart, but he felt his presence very clearly, though it was vague and unfamiliar. Seraphine continued to explain, "Here, there is no time, no space as you know it. Everything moves in an endless cycle, where souls wait to be guided into a new journey. You can't see them, but they're everywhere, souls still trapped in the past, souls who haven't found peace. And you, Jack, are in a state of transition. You stand between life and passing, in a space that cannot be defined." Jack looked around, feeling everything like a strange dream, untouchable yet strikingly clear. He didn't know what to say, but Seraphine seemed to understand the confusion in his eyes. "You've faced the passing, but you haven't crossed over. And now, you must decide, will you return and continue your journey, or will you step into a new world where souls like yours can find peace?" Seraphine led Jack on a journey through mystical realms, each one holding its own unique feature, making him feel like he was stepping into a world beyond comprehension. The scenery shifted constantly before his eyes, as though he was passing through different layers of space, each layer revealing a new, magical sight. First, there was a vast land bathed in a mystical light, not the sunlight he knew, but a different kind of light, soft, shimmering like rays in a dream. Winding paths resembling rivers of light stretched out before him, and upon them, strange beings moved. There were shadowy figures, perhaps people, yet perhaps entities beyond recognition, all merging into an endless cycle that never stopped. Jack looked around, sensing an aura of mystery permeating the space. Each landscape changed smoothly, without any sign of interruption. Endless fields stretched out, filled with flowers unlike any he had ever seen, their colors indescribable by words. Towering mountains pierced the sky, their peaks covered in snow, like spires reaching endlessly upwards into a sky Jack could not see the top of. Then, there were ancient forests, with trees twisted and strange, their branches extending far beyond what the eye could follow, not obeying the natural order of life. A sense of ambiguity surrounded everything, as if nothing here was real but part of a larger dream, where everything was blurred and impossible to define. Yet, in each moment, Jack felt an uneasy feeling that he couldn't explain. He couldn't fully understand the nature of this place, one where there was no time, no space as he had known them. Everything here seemed to be images, illusions, but they existed in a way that was so vivid, so real, that he couldn't deny their presence. Each step Jack took made him feel as if the space around him shifted with his every thought, with each breath he took. He couldn't know where he was heading, nor could he predict what would happen next, but he felt that this place, though strange and incomprehensible, had a pull that he could not resist. He witnessed the souls of those who had just departed from the world, drifting in an empty, hazy space, shadowy yet deeply haunting. They wandered aimlessly in the darkness, burdened by unfinished emotions, regret, anger, or unfulfilled love. These souls appeared as faint specters, sometimes merely fleeting glimmers of light, but they left a profound impression, a silent cry that couldn't be ignored. Jack observed that each soul carried its own story, tales left incomplete. A mother reached out desperately toward the children she had left behind. A young man bowed his head, his eyes filled with remorse for an irreversible mistake. A child clutched something tightly in their hand, perhaps a small memory, but to them, it was an entire world. These beings seemed trapped between two realms, unable to move on because of the burdens they hadn't released, the dreams they hadn't realized, or the wounds that hadn't healed. Each step Jack took in this strange space felt like turning the pages of a sorrowful book, each page revealing a painful story, an incomplete life. He felt an unnamed sorrow, as if the anguish of these souls was pouring into his own heart. Yet, amidst the pain, he also sensed something else, a hint that he might be able to do something for them, to ease their unhealed wounds and guide them to the place where they belonged. Seraphine gazed at Jack with an expression as deep as the cosmos itself, her voice resonating like a melodic echo in the surreal space around them. "This is the turning realm," she explained, "a place where souls are drawn to confront the choices they missed or avoided during their lives. It is not a refuge to hide but a space to reflect, to face the decisions they lacked the courage to make while they were alive." As she walked slowly, her hand moved gracefully through the air, and the environment around them began to shift. Ethereal images formed, revealing pivotal moments from the lives of countless souls. An elderly man stood hesitantly before a closed door, his eyes filled with inner turmoil. A young woman knelt down, clutching a bouquet of wilted flowers, her tears falling onto the ground as though mourning an unspoken regret. Each vision seemed like pages from a book, unfolding stories of actions taken or forsaken, of opportunities lost, and of relationships left fractured. Seraphine continued, her tone contemplative yet unwavering, "Everything you experienced in life, joy, pain, love, even betrayal, leaves an imprint. These imprints are like invisible threads, weaving together and pulling you back into the cycle. This is why some souls cannot transcend, they remain tethered, unable to let go of these bindings." She turned her gaze toward Jack, her piercing eyes seeming to reach into his very being. "Do you understand that not all choices are about actions? Sometimes, they are about letting go and embracing acceptance." Jack stood there, his mind swirling with disbelief and confusion over the surreal spectacle unfolding before him. He kept telling himself that this must be a terrible nightmare, that any moment now, he would wake up in a hospital bed or hear the shouts of his teammates pulling him back to reality. Yet, the sensations were far too vivid. Each breath carried the faint, unplaceable scent of an otherworldly atmosphere, and distant echoes seemed to reverberate from places he could not begin to comprehend. Tentatively, he extended his hand toward one of the drifting souls nearby. It was an ethereal figure, its features delicate and shimmering as if painted with beams of light. But as his fingertips neared the apparition, it dissolved into a wisp of smoke, scattering into the air before his eyes. Again and again, he tried to touch them, and each time, the same result. Jack felt like a helpless spectator in a cruel game, trapped in a cycle where every effort was met with futility. These souls, though devoid of solid form, emanated raw, unfiltered emotions. One appeared to weep, its shoulders trembling under the weight of unseen burdens. Another seemed to smile, but the expression bore traces of sorrow rather than joy. Each soul silently told a story, narratives Jack could sense but not fully grasp. He began to understand a sobering truth: some things in life are beyond human control. Mysteries that defy logic and science, not meant to be unraveled but to be felt and respected. Jack's trembling hands fell to his sides as he stopped trying to reach out. In that moment, something shifted within him. It was no longer fear that gripped him but a profound sense of reverence for the incomprehensible. A feeling that combined curiosity with humility. Maybe, he thought to himself, not everything needs to be explained. However, what troubled and perplexed Jack the most was the profound sense of transition he was experiencing in life. In the past, he always believed that passing was the final point, an inevitable end, like closing a door after a long journey through life. To him, it was the moment everything stopped, the light went out, the story closed. But now, standing in this hazy land, he began to realize that he had been completely wrong. Passing, as he was witnessing, was not a stopping point but another phase in the endless cycle of life. It was a transitional process, like stepping through a door into a new world where the journey continued, but in a way that the human mind could hardly comprehend. Seraphine, as if reading the confused thoughts in his mind, spoke gently. "Passing is not the end, Jack. It is the next step in the great journey we all must undertake. The soul never truly fades, it simply changes states, learning and growing in ways we cannot imagine while we are alive." Her voice echoed, carrying with it the certainty of an ancient truth Jack had never known. Looking around, Jack began to sense the presence of the souls around him more clearly. They were no longer mere shadows, but entities moving through a continuous flow, as if they were on their way to someplace farther. Some of them carried a warm light, as though they had found peace in their hearts. Others struggled, being pulled back by invisible threads of unresolved memories and regrets. Jack couldn't stop wondering, if passing was truly just a transition, what awaited him ahead? Would he be ready to face it? And more importantly, could he change his perception of life and how he chose to live each moment? These thoughts made him feel small, yet at the same time, they sparked a strange hope within him, that life and passing were merely parts of a larger cycle, beyond the limits of time and space. As Jack walked through the dense fog, he felt the heavy, chilling air, filled with the mournful whispers of trapped souls. A man emerged from the darkness, introducing himself as Thomas, an artist imprisoned by regrets from his past. Thomas revealed that he had once been so consumed by his work that he neglected his loving wife, realizing his mistakes only when it was too late. Thomas explained that this place mirrored fears and painful memories, keeping him bound. Yet, he also discovered that peace wasn't a destination but a state of mind, achieved only by confronting deep wounds. Hearing his story, Jack realized his journey was not only about freeing lost souls but also finding peace within himself. In a moment of profound reflection, as Seraphine's and Thomas's words echoed through his mind, Jack began to perceive a truth he had never truly acknowledged before. The battles he had fought in his life, the raging infernos, the life or death decisions, and the relentless efforts to save lives now seemed like mere fragments of a larger, more intricate tapestry. He realized that true strength didn't lie in his ability to conquer flames but in the way he connected with those around him, in the light and hope he could offer to others. Jack's thoughts drifted back to his life, to the comrades who had stood by his side through grueling challenges, to his family who always awaited his safe return after long, grueling shifts. He understood that all these relationships formed the foundation of his existence, the threads that tied him to the world. And in that moment, he also recognized how often the busyness and chaos of his life had caused him to lose sight of their true meaning. The unsaid apologies, the hugs he hadn't given, all carried a weight he hadn't fully appreciated until now. A profound shift began to take root in Jack's heart. He realized that every individual carries a responsibility not just for their own life but also for the souls they have touched, are touching, and will touch in the future. Peace wasn't something to seek solely for oneself, it was a gift to nurture, share, and spread collectively. To achieve that, Jack understood he needed to confront himself, his shortcomings, fears, and regrets to become a source of healing not only for himself but also for those around him. After facing the trapped souls for the last time, Jack felt a deep, profound mix of relief and responsibility settle within him. The faint, fading faces of the souls, the whispers filled with urgency, and the eyes filled with unspeakable sorrow, all lingered in his mind like echoes in an empty room. Seraphine stood before him, her presence radiating a soft, ethereal glow, yet this time, the light around her was different. It no longer carried an air of mystery, but rather a warmth, a gentle guidance, like the hand of fate leading him toward something greater. "You have seen what few are fortunate enough to witness," Seraphine's voice resonated, each word carrying the weight of ages, sinking deeply into Jack's soul, as though they were more than just words, they were revelations. "You are not ready to cross over just yet, but you can never return to the way things were. The life you once lived, though full of strength and resilience, lacked the most important thing, your heart. Live with your heart, Jack. Cherish every moment, every person you encounter. Understand that what you do does not only leave a mark in the present, but becomes a legacy for generations yet to come." Her words wrapped around him like a gentle embrace, and as she placed her hand upon his chest, a wave of warmth surged through him. He could feel the powerful rhythm of his heartbeat as if it were louder, stronger, more alive than it had ever been. It wasn't just the pulse of his body, but the pulse of something greater, something that connected him to everything around him. The warmth from her touch lingered, a reminder of his own humanity, his capacity to love and be loved. "Never forget that the greatest strength of humanity," Seraphine continued, her gaze unwavering, "is not the courage to face fire or danger, but the compassion, love, and sacrifice. These are the only lights that can guide lost souls, yours included." Jack's head lowered, overwhelmed by the depth of her words. A wave of emotion washed over him, and for the first time, he realized the weight of everything he had lived through, everything he had done. But more than that, he realized the opportunity he had been given not just to live, but to live with purpose, to make each day truly meaningful. He felt as if he had been gifted with a second chance, not merely to survive, but to breathe life into every single moment that remained. Ere Seraphine raised her hand, the light around them began to dim, the ethereal glow fading as if retreating into the folds of the universe. The space around them blurred, and Jack felt a pull, a gentle tug that seemed to lead him back to where he truly belonged. It was not to the life he had once known, but to a new chapter, a world full of possibilities, full of chances to create real change. With each step he took toward this new beginning, Jack could feel his heart beat stronger, not in defiance of the world he was leaving behind, but in acceptance of the one he was about to embrace. There was so much more ahead of him, so many lives to touch, so many opportunities to make things right. As the light finally faded and Seraphine's figure became a mere silhouette in the distance, Jack knew his journey had only just begun. He was no longer bound by the expectations of his old life. He had learned that true heroism lay not in the battles fought or the fires extinguished, but in the everyday acts of kindness, in the ways people connected, helped, and lifted each other up. Jack understood now that this was the true calling of his life: to spread that light, to be a beacon of compassion, to serve others not from a place of duty, but from the heart. And as he stepped forward into the world, Jack made a silent vow to himself: he would live each day as though it were a gift, one filled with meaning, with love, and with a purpose greater than anything he could have ever imagined. Each moment would be a chance to change, to heal, and to find the light within, no matter how dark the path ahead might seem. When Jack opened his eyes in the stark white hospital room, the soft light streaming through the window, every tiny ray seemed to carry a new meaning he had never recognized before. The sound of medical staff's footsteps, the ordinary sounds he had once ignored, now echoed through the quiet space of the room, making him feel that every moment of life was filled with a kind of mystery he had never truly appreciated. There was no more sharp pain, no more wounds tormenting his body. Instead, he felt an indescribable sense of relief, as if everything around him was unfolding clearly and fully. He looked at the simple objects in the room: the bed, the washcloth on the table, the thick blanket over him. Each one held its own value, each had a story, a meaning he had never noticed before. The most mundane things, which he had previously seen as lifeless objects, now became precious moments of life. These small things were the very details that made up the essence of life, which he had overlooked for so long. Every breath, every movement of his body, every feeling of life flowing through him now carried profound meaning, full of humanity. Jack was no longer the tough, brave firefighter who rushed into dangerous situations without thinking of himself. He realized that, in his fast-paced, responsibility-laden life, he had focused so much on saving others that he had forgotten that he, too, needed to be saved, needed to be loved and valued. He used to think that saving people was what gave his life meaning, but now, he understood that life truly had meaning when he learned to cherish every moment and the connections between himself and those around him. The lessons Jack learned in the mystical realm were not dreams or illusions, but profound truths about life and passing that he could not ignore. They broadened his perspective, helping him realize that passing is not the end, but a part of the endless cycle of life. Jack had once believed he was a hero, an invincible firefighter, but now he understood that he was just an ordinary person, as vulnerable as anyone else. He no longer felt superior to the people he had saved. Instead, he felt a deep connection with all those individuals. Each moment now felt incredibly precious to him. Jack felt every beat of his heart, not just because he had survived the life and death trials, but because he had learned how to live truly. He realized that life wasn't just about existing, but living with full emotions, with compassion, and with an open heart. He no longer lived just to save people, he lived to make a difference, to spread love and kindness to those around him. Now Jack was determined to live a meaningful life, not just for himself but for everyone he encountered. Those he loved, his teammates, and even the strangers he had saved were no longer just responsibilities, they were the driving force that pushed him forward every day. He no longer feared challenges, no longer avoided difficulties. On the contrary, he was ready to face them with a new spirit, with resilience, not because he had to fulfill his duty, but because he deeply believed that every challenge was an opportunity to grow and find peace in his soul. For Jack, life was no longer just a series of tasks, it was a journey full of meaning. He learned to live with gratitude, to love, and to appreciate everything life had to offer. And most importantly, Jack learned that life, whether short or long, is a priceless gift that we must cherish every second, every minute, so that we never regret. What he witnessed in the waiting realm, where souls are trapped and have yet to complete their journeys, completely changed the way he viewed everything around him. In the past, he often saw passing as a terrifying end, something unavoidable and haunting. But now, after all the experiences in that mystical realm, Jack understood that passing is just a natural part of the eternal cycle of life. It's not the end, but a transition, an invisible connection between worlds. Instead of being haunted by loss and fear, he began to focus on what he could do in life, how he could make a difference in the lives of others and in his own. What he had experienced in the waiting realm, where lost souls were trapped and unable to move on, completely changed the way he viewed everything around him. Previously, Jack had seen death as a terrifying end, something inevitable and full of fear. But after his experiences in that mystical realm, Jack understood that death was merely a natural part of the endless cycle of life. It wasn't an end, but a transition, an invisible connection between worlds. Instead of being haunted by loss and fear, he began to focus on how he lived, on how he could make a difference in the lives of others and in his own. With an open heart and a new outlook on life, Jack no longer saw his firefighting job as just a task to complete, but as a mission with profound meaning. He became an inspiration to his team, not just for his unwavering courage in dangerous situations but for the positive attitude he brought to those around him. Jack wasn't just leading his team, he was sharing inspiration about kindness and gratitude in every action. He told them that, in each moment they faced danger, they weren't just saving lives, they were discovering the true value of themselves. He encouraged them to live with gratitude and the belief that even the smallest actions could leave a lasting impact. He taught them that life wasn't just about what they did, but about how they lived and loved, about how they connected with those around them. He urged them to approach each day with an open heart and to recognize that every moment, no matter how small, could change someone's life forever. The mystical realm Jack had visited, where souls were still seeking peace, was no longer a vague memory, it had become a driving force to live a fuller life. Every day, Jack was driven by a desire to live meaningfully, to spread warmth and kindness to everyone he encountered. He realized that each moment in life was a gift, an opportunity to enrich his soul and share the wonder of existence with others. For Jack, his work wasn't just about extinguishing fires, it was about lighting the flame of hope in the hearts of everyone he met. He no longer viewed his job solely as a way to protect and rescue people from the flames, but as an opportunity to ignite love, care, and hope in them. And most importantly, he found a flame of hope within his own heart, a belief in his own abilities, and a deep desire to live a life full of meaning and purpose. These things became the driving force for Jack, not only to complete his work but also to live a life that was whole, rich in purpose, and never missed a single moment of the wonder that life had to offer. In the stillness and depth of his soul, Jack began to understand that passing, although seen as an end, is actually not the final stop in the eternal journey of life. It is not a full stop but merely a transition, a new chapter in the endless cycle of existence. What he experienced in the waiting realm not only changed his perspective on passing, but also sparked in him a stronger desire to live than ever before. The illusions he witnessed, the souls trapped in unfinished loops, opened his eyes to a new view of life, to the things he had overlooked in his previous existence. Now Jack no longer saw life through the lens of daily tasks or accomplishments that were meant to provide a sense of success. Instead, he realized that the true value of life lies in the simple, authentic moments. Each present moment is an invaluable gift, a miracle to be cherished and preserved. He began to understand that amidst the rush of life, We often overlook the small yet profoundly important things like waking up peacefully in the morning, spending evenings surrounded by loved ones, or receiving warm hugs from those closest to us. The memories of those souls who hadn't yet crossed over in the waiting zone served as reminders that we must live fully in each moment, because life is a series of miracles we often forget amidst the hustle and bustle of the world around us. Now, with an open heart and a strong belief in the magic of life, Jack no longer viewed challenges as obstacles. Instead, he embraced them as opportunities for growth, to learn more about himself and the world around him. He understood that difficulties are not something to avoid but an essential part of life, helping us discover and refine ourselves. Those challenges are now chances for Jack to learn, to feel the strength of himself when facing fears, and to develop patience and love for others. With the lessons from the waiting zone, he is determined to live a life of meaning, not just to exist through the days but to live each second, each minute, and to experience the miracle of his own existence. Thank you for watching this video. The story of Fire Captain Jack, who faced life or death moments and mysterious discoveries during his journey, is truly moving and meaningful. The challenges he had to overcome and the lessons he learned completely changed the way he views life and passing. We hope this story has inspired you and offered deep reflections on the value of life and our responsibility to live a meaningful life. If you found this story helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss future videos. Once again, thank you for being with us. Wishing you a life lived to the fullest in every moment.